Pegasus World Cup is less than 1 week away. The world's richest horse race. Now many thinking Gunrunner is the horse to beat, but is he the horse to bet? Welcome everybody to the pre-draw Pegasus preview. I'm Zoe Cadman, joined by the Mig, Richard Migliore, Jason Blewitt, and Acacia, Courtney. And before we get things going, guys, I need your top pick in the race.
Well, I'm going to look for an upset, and I'm going to go with West Coast. I just like what I've seen from him since he turned 4 years old. He just seems like a bigger, stronger version. Wasn't badly beaten in the Breeders' Cup Classic, and if he can push the throttle forward a little bit, maybe he's the horse that can upset.
Jason?
Now, as Mig and Acacia know from working with me, nobody loves a favorite as much as I do, so it is Gunrunner all the way for the obvious reasons.
Chalk-eating weasel. Acacia, can you better that?
Well, I'm going to be a chalk-eating weasel as well in this one, and I think Gunrunner is the horse to beat. I don't think he's unbeatable. Now, I think that you can use him with somebody else. There are potentially some prices in the race, and that's how I'm going to play it.
And that's how we're trying to make some money here. I myself will join you as a chalk-eating weasel. But all right, let's figure out how post positions will affect the race. This is a pre-draw show. But, I mean, we can go 1 to 12. What happens if you're drawn out in the parking lot?
Well, as of last year, leading into last year's Pegasus World Cup, post 12 was actually 1 for 18 since they had reconfigured the track. So it is very difficult to win from out there. It's a very short run into the first turn. We saw it on Sunshine Millions Day with the Sunshine Millions Classic, that mile and a furlong distance, and how if you're drawn out there or even drawn inside, your hand is really forced to send early on.
Well, think back to California Chrome last year. He had post 12, was asked for speed out of the gate, and wasn't quick enough to clear, wasn't quick enough to get over, and was hung out in no man's land a good 5-6 wide around that first turn and never fired from there. I think a good quarter of the field posts do matter. Sharp Azteca, Collected, Gunrunner, of course, and even the New York bred Giant Expectations. Inside or outside, all four of those horses will be really affected.
All of those horses show speed. We saw last year with Mike Smith on Arrogate. You know, Bob jokes, you know, they give me the one hole, then they draw the race. Mike Smith with Arrogate sent out of there like a quarter horse. Now he rides Collected. What happens with the inside draw? How do you ride it?
Well, if you're on a speed horse and you have the inside draw, you have to use that horse's speed, and you have to send to the first turn and hopefully create separation. If they allow you to have it, great. Now I have the lead. I can moderate things and basically, you know, dictate the tempo. But if someone else is intent on it, now I've created separation. So there'll be a break where there'll be some horses, they'll stretch out, and I have options.
Plenty of options. Well, we need some options on how to make some money in betting the Pegasus World Cup. Now, you're on Gunrunner. You're the handicapper. We saw last year Arrogate over Shaman Ghost paid $33. The dollar trifecta paid $105. How do we make some money, Jason?
Well, and that was with Neolithic for perennial leading trainer Todd Pletcher getting up for third. So there is opportunity for sure. The two horses that won't be favored that I'm looking at behind Gunrunner are Gunavera. For the obvious reasons with him, he loves this track. He is a different horse here at Gulfstream Park. He really is the hometown flavor horse going in. I also think he's got the right kind of ability and style, whereas if they go really fast and the pace is really hot, he's not flashy, but he can suck up and clunk up and grind away and get a piece. The other horse I kind of like is Mig's top pick, West Coast.
Mig, we're watching Gunavera now just come to the wire over Sloppy Racetrack. What have you seen from him in the mornings? I mean, is he a use for you or a must-use for somebody else?
Well, he is a horse that I think you have to use underneath. I don't see him winning, but I could see him getting a good piece of it for the reasons that Jason stated. He's got the right style. If things heat up too much on the front end, other guys make mistakes, get too involved, you know he's going to be coming in the right direction in the stretch. The other thing, too, is I think physically this horse has really developed and come around. I like what I saw from him heading to the Breeders' Cup Classic. I saw him in December. I liked him even more. And just seeing him recently, I think he's put on weight. His coat's even better. So this is a horse that I think is physically finally catching up.
Acacia, you've spent a lot of time over there with Antonio Sano and Gunrunner. He's got quite a following. What are your thoughts on Gunavera?
Well, I've gotten the chance to kind of get familiar with quite a few of the Pegasus World Cup contenders being at the barns, and I agree with what Mig Mig said about Gunnevera. You saw him throughout the Triple Crown Trail last year. He did drop a bit of weight. He had a very tough early part of 2017. Connections absolutely doing the right thing by him, giving him a rest. He came back and won the Tangelo here at Gulfstream. He has that home court advantage. As far as the home court advantage goes, I'm really intrigued by another horse that trains locally, and that's Sharp Azteca for Jorge Navarro, who I think has a very strong hand with both of his horses. The only one to run in both Pegasus World Cups is War Story. He was 5th last year. He has that relentless, grinding running style as well. And Mig, you and I were talking about this work from Sharp Azteca. Wow. He is much more of a flashy workhorse in comparison with somebody like Gunnevera, who's never been an impressive workhorse. But Irad Ortiz even saying he was just a passenger in this work. This horse has really come into his own.
Best work you've seen in 40 years, Mig. Do you include him in your trifecta along with West Coast and Gunrunner?
Well, listen, I'm trying to beat Gunrunner out of the exacta, and I'm going to use West Coast and Sharp Azteca, and mostly off of this workout. I've been watching horses and been around horses my entire life, and this was jaw-dropping. What he did after the wire, when he re-broke about a 16th past the wire, I was as impressed as can be, and I know there's questions about him getting a mile and an eighth, and he's going to be one of the horses that's going to be part of that pace, but off of this work, he's a use for me.
Who do you use?
Well, West Coast and Gunnevera, obviously, and I'm really happy that Sharp Azteca is in the race. I think he adds an amazing layer because, I mean, as far as raw ability and when it comes down to being the nation's top miler, he's got both those things in his wheelhouse. And a horse like him, we've seen over this racetrack that at times can get a little speedy. Horses like him move up. They get elevated because the track might carry them to an extent. And West Coast is my other horse, like I was saying. I think Bob Baffert, I know he's in the Hall of Fame. I know he gets great horses to train. To me, in this modern era of thoroughbred racing, there is no better trainer at just shipping in and getting that one career-defining effort out of a single horse like trainer Bob Baffert.
Well, West Coast galloping along here under Dana Barnes at Santa Anita. He's coming in the right way, but Acacia, you're on Gunrunner. How are we going to make some money with your bet? Say we're playing a trifecta. How do we do that? What are you going with?
Well, I think you can use that horse if you're playing those multi-race sequences and you want to use that as your free bingo square and single Gunrunner. That'll give you the opportunity to spread in some of the other races, which really could be fruitful. But if you're playing a trifecta in there, I'm going to use Gunrunner over Sharp Azteca, include War Story in there, and include West Coast. Now, those horses perhaps will not make the most payout as far as a superfecta goes, but you'll still get a good chunk of money as opposed to just using an exacta, because I have a feeling that horses like West Coast and Sharp Azteca are going to take some play.
When we see the post position draw, what kind of price do you think we're going to get on Gunrunner? A, if he gets the 1 hole, and B, if he gets the 12 hole?
I think mid-pack, 3 to 5. If he gets the 12 hole, maybe you raise him up to 4 to 5 or even money. Inside post probably still remains 3 to 5 or so. I think that is really the price that Jay Stone, the Gulfstream line makers, will make him.
Well, I think the inside post is good for him. I think it almost simplifies things. I know, he'll get pressure, but he's a horse that possesses speed. They don't get in his way. They don't ever send him, per se, but they never take him back either. They never grab a hold of him. I think one of his strengths is his ability to stay. He can, has a high cruising speed, and he stays on. We saw that in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
All right, well, we've listened to all of our thoughts. We have Sharp Azteca, we have Gunrunner, we have West Coast. What about Collected?
Yeah.
I think if anyone beats Gunrunner, it's going to be Collected. The last race was a complete toss. He came back, he worked 59 flat. Mike Smith admits he made a mistake in his last. He's a horse that's tactical, and he can win on the lead. Am I crazy? Am I crazy?
Well, if he is able to rebound, you are crazy, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say, not because of that,
yeah,
but yes.
That's a 1 to 9 with no place in show betting. That's so true. But in the case of Collected, if you can give him a pass because he rated and just didn't show up in the San Antonio, he'll have a big chance if he can revert back. And it's obvious to those races he ran over the summer, beating Arrogate, even if Arrogate was on the downside of a Hall of Fame-worthy career. I mean, Collected's got back class and fast races. He adds yet another nice nice little wild card layer of intrigue to this race.
And I think one of the things to point out with that is that he's 2 for 2 with the 1.125 distance as well. He does have that. West Coast has that advantage of of winning at that distance. And sometimes if you're just going for a horse that's going to succeed right in that little niche spot, that might be the way to do it.
Well, Collected actually plays into my thinking of why Gunrunner may be vulnerable. Now, you think about the throwdown they had in the Breeders' Cup Classic. And I know Mike Smith, not one of his finer rides in the San Antonio. But a horse like Collected, he wasn't though he wrangled him back and they went a half in 49. That horse should have basically dragged Mike into the race. Does that say that race was too taxing? And, you know, they are flesh and blood. And Gunrunner's a great horse. He's a champion. But they don't always run that A race. Do they regress off that effort? I'm thinking that that had something to do with Collected's effort, along with the poor ride in the San Antonio. And I'm just wondering if Gunrunner can deliver that another A-plus effort.
Top pick for you before we get done here. Top 3, any order.
Any order, top 3. Well, you know, it's West Coast, Sharp Azteca, and I like the reasoning by Gunavera. You actually convinced me.
Perfect.
I'm going to go with Gunrunner over Gunavera and West Coast. And I'm just wondering, does anybody like the filly at all, Stellar Wind?
I'm afraid not. I feel awful.
Yeah.
I mean, she's training well. It's the best I've ever seen her work in the morning. We've been watching her a very, very long time. But I think she's in deep water here, and I'm not sure she can swim as fast as the others.
I'm in agreement with that. I saw her at Palm Meadows the other morning, and she is all class from head to toe. You certainly can see that. She's got a lot to prove. And I think one of the good things about the field in this year's Pegasus World Cup is that the waters are deep. You look top to bottom in the race, and it is a very tough field. And even speaking to Chad Brown the other day, he said that's how it should be. And he realizes that Stellar Wind is going to be a bit tough in here. I'm going to take Gunrunner on top personally. I'm using Sharp Azteca and War Story underneath, a little bit of Navarro underneath to try and get a late-running, relentless grinding horse to pick up a piece.
All right, well, I'm going to go with Gunrunner on top for myself and also Collected. And I think I'm going to throw Baffert's other horse in there as well for West Coast. Well, guys, it's been fun. We will see you for the Pegasus World Cup. For Acacia Courtney, for Jason Blewitt, I'm Zoe Cadman, for Richard Migliore. Thanks so much for tuning in to the pre-draw Pegasus preview.